people are doing anti-Semitic.
Are you kidding?
No, I'm not kidding. It's laws in many of our states.
I'm Jewish. I'm not anti-Semitic. I'm Jewish, but I'm against Israel. Being against Israel, I'm a Jew. I'm not hating myself.
Good.
I'm here to stand up for my religion. I'm here to stand up for my people.
And explain yourself.
I'm here to express, to teach, and to explain how wrong the state of Israel is, and that the state of Israel is not Jewish at all. According to Judaism, the very basics of Judaism forbids a sovereign homeland for the Jewish people. This is in total contradiction to our tradition, to our teaching, to our belief. This was accepted by all Jews throughout all generations. The philosophy of Zionism, of building a sovereign homeland for Jews, is a relatively new concept that was invented by Theodor Herzl and his friends, non-religious people, didn't follow anything within Judaism. It is totally wrong to call it a Jewish concept or a Jewish state. This would be even without oppressing anyone, without committing any crimes against anyone. But when this happens in Palestine by occupying a land of an entire people, the Palestinian people, by killing and stealing and oppressing, all of this is totally wrong, not only according to international law. This is not only a violation of human rights. This is a true violation of Jewish law. All of this is totally forbidden, should not be called a Jewish state, should not be considered Jewish. They do not represent us, and none of their actions are condoned by the Holy Torah.
In Palestine?
Yes, there were Jews in Palestine before the 1920s. They lived in peace, in total peace. What changed? When was it changed? Why? It was by the invention of Zionism, when the philosophy, the movement of Zionism first came into the Holy Land, which totally destroyed the beautiful peace that did take place between Jews and non-Jews. It was a beautiful place, it was a nice place, it was Jerusalem, the city of peace. It's the city that is supposed to represent peace, and it should represent peace, and it will represent peace if we would stop this occupation, if we would stop this AIPAC having today this convention here in DC, if we would stop the support for Israel, if we would wake up and realize that we have to rethink all that has been done against God, all that has been done against the Jewish religion, all that has been done against the Palestinian people, all wrongs, all crimes that has been committed so far has to be stopped, has to be rectified. We have to acknowledge that what was done is wrong. When we do that, we can reach a peace that all of us inspire to. In sind wir ehrliche Jiden, in sind wir Jiden, wo's halten der Teure, in sind wir Jiden, wo's einen Mechanich, wo's lernen, dus was unsere Seides, in älter Seides, von tausende Jahr, haben gehalten, in sich Mäuser Nefisch gewesen, weggegeben der Leben fahr. Ins darf man halten in der Teure, in ins Turmen nicht noch gehen, dem Zionis, in der zionistische Medina, der State of Israel. Wie lang der State of Israel steht, wie lang die Meride, die Verbrecher gegen Bashefer, geht tun, ist eine Skune für Jeden, ist eine Skune für die ganze Menschheit. Wir dürfen das endigen, zurückgehen zu Gott, in aufhören, der Avlos, was wird getan, in aufhören, der Verbrecher gegen Gott und gegen die Teure.
We are here, Answer Coalition and AL-AWDA from Ohio and the Midwest, to stand united for a free Palestine, to stand in support of the Palestinian people and the right of all Palestinians to return to their homeland, and to protest AIPAC at their national convention. Because we know that AIPAC is here very excited that Donald Trump has become the president. But we also know that there's a huge movement of resistance to Donald Trump. And we are here to say that support for Palestine and the freedom of Palestine will be part of the resistance that is taking shape across the country to the Trump agenda. And we will be standing with the Palestinian people just as we always have, no matter what Trump does to greenlight Israel's continuing terror against the Palestinian people. We will continue to support Palestine, and we know that Palestine will be free.
Assalamu alaikum. We are here standing in solidarity with the Palestinian people, and not only in solidarity, I am Palestinian for myself. I'm from the village of Deir Yassin that was massacred on April 9, 1948. So today I stand here as a ghost from the people of my village that were massacred. And we will continue the struggle until every Palestinian refugee returns to his village, to his city, and every inch of Palestine. Our first speaker here is the co-founder from Boats to Gaza. This woman here risked her life on the shores going to Gaza. Please welcome Greta Berlin.
I only have a couple of things I wanted to tell all of you who are here. 50 years ago, when Israel first attacked the Palestinians and the Arab countries, I was sitting in my living room in Chicago with people like Ibrahim Abu-Lughod. And I looked around the room and I thought to myself, oh my God, I am the youngest person in this room. 50 years later, I'm standing on this footstool and I'm saying, oh my God, I am the oldest person on this footstool. I want you to know that I know what it is like to support Palestine when there were only 3 of us and no Palestinian flags. I had to make one. Now there are millions of us who understand what Palestine is. There is no amount of backsheath or bombs or black ops or bribery that is going to make the Zionists remain. Remember that. Remember that from somebody who's been here for 50 years. You are going to win, everybody. They used to say the old would die and the young would forget. Well, look at the Palestinians here. That is not true. That is not true. You are going to be here and you're going to take Palestine back from the river to the sea, and Palestine will be whole again with everyone. Whether you're Jewish or Christian or Muslim or atheist, Palestine belongs to the Palestinians. I'm honored to be here. I'm honored to be able to say that. I'm honored actually to be still alive after 50 years. And I wanted to leave you with saying, listen, my name is Ribhe. My children are Palestinian. I am proud of that, and I am awfully proud to be part of you. Thank you.
Okay, the next speaker here we have is somebody who's very close to me. I've known her for at least 17 years. She's been throughout the West Bank of Palestine to Gaza. She's been an activist for many, many years. A phenomenal presenter that goes around the country and has put Palestine at the forefront. She's also the founder of If Americans Knew. Are you familiar with that? If American News? Yes. Please welcome somebody that I've known for over 17 years and who always supports AL-AWDA, always supports the right of return. This is important that we acknowledge people who have always stood by Palestine. When they're loyal to us, we must be loyal to them. Please welcome Allison Weir.
Thank you so much. I'm honored to be here. I'm not usually a rally speaker, so I'll do my best. I felt I needed to write something down, so I'll try to read my notes here. I'm honored to have been asked to speak. I stand here for all of you who gathered from across the country and across the world. We are supporting a noble, urgent human cause. We are standing up for human rights, for justice, for truth, and for a profoundly important principle. We are standing here to uphold the principle that we must all human beings must support all rights for all others, regardless of their race, religion, ethnicity, and that must must include Palestinians. We are standing here to stand up for others when they are being trampled upon. We are standing up to uphold the principle that liberty and justice for all includes Palestinians, that the right to return to your home applies to Palestinians, that the right to pursue happiness, the right to pursue life itself applies to Palestinians. We are here because we must be, because we will not stand by while grotesque and unconscionable violence of all kinds is visited on human beings, sons and daughters, grandmothers, infants, and small children in Palestine. Violence that has begotten growing violence throughout our world, that we are here and are determined to stop. We are here to expose and oppose a powerful, politically brutal, and manipulative lobby that has done despicable damage to my country, that buys and corrupts our politicians and tries to do the same to talented student leaders, hundreds of them, who are brought here from across the country, who have no idea, I believe, of the rot within the glittering group that paid their airfare and show them such potential power if they just go along with AIPAC, with AIPAC's enablement of crimes against humanity in Palestine. We are here, I speak for all of you that are here, and all of the thousands who would be here if they could but support our cause around the United States and around the world, tens of thousands. We are here because we will not be silent. We will not be bystanders to cruelty, and we will not be stopped. We are on the right side of history, and our descendants will be proud that we were willing to speak out when so many cower in fear at the pervasive power of our adversaries. I am proud to be among you, people who are unafraid to speak out and determined to do the right thing, who are determined to stand up for all human beings and to stand up for a free Palestine, even when it may be personally dangerous and personally damaging. We are here, and our courage will eventually triumph. I am proud to be among you. Justice for Palestine, free Palestine.
Thank you, Allison Weir.
Next, I'm going to bring up someone who is a longtime organizer in the DC area, in the Muslim community, who's been organizing all over DC, all over Maryland, all over Virginia, tirelessly for years now, who I met in 2002 and who was critical to the organizing of the April 2002 demonstration of 100,000 people for Palestine, which is still the biggest demonstration in U.S. history in support of the Palestinian people. And in the past 15 years since that demonstration, Mahdi Bray has been continuing to organize, and he's here today. He represents the American Muslim Alliance, and we're going to bring him up now to say a few words.
Yeah.
Thank you. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. In the name of Allah, most gracious, most merciful. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
Oh, we can do better than that. Assalamu alaikum. All right, all right.
Can you step one up?
Sure. I can step up. We're going to step up. That's what we're here, to step up. To step it up. We're going to step it up. Because we're fired up. And we're ready to go. All right. Let me just say this. You know that we're here to stand for Palestine. We're here. You know, someone said, be careful because you know you're going to be out there in front of the White House. You know, be careful about the White House. I don't give a damn about the White House. Let me say it again. I don't give a damn about the White House if a Palestinian can live in peace and safety in their house. and their house. So that's what we're saying. So we're saying this, and we'll say it again. Nobody wants to be occupied. Nobody. Nelson Mandela got it right. Nobody wants to be occupied. You know, and that's what we're talking about there. That's why we're in front of the White House, because that's what this guy called Trump is about. His agenda is about occupation. He's in bed with Netanyahu and all of them. They're about occupation. They're about apartheid. But we're here to resist apartheid. You know, he's talking about he's going to have some kind of peace conference maybe for the Middle East. Let me say this. Gentlemen may cry, peace, peace, but there is no peace. Is life so dear, or peace so sweet, as to be purchased at the price of chain and slavery? Forbid it, Almighty God, for I know not what other cause other men's cries. But as for me and the Palestinian people, give me liberty or give me death. This struggle for Palestine is a life and death matter. We're not playing games here. We're standing strong. You know, the coward will ask, is it safe? Vanity will ask, is it popular? But conscience will ask, is it right? And what I'm saying, what's happening to our Palestinian brothers and sisters is not right. And we're here to resist it. We're going to continue to resist this. We're going to continue, and we're standing together. We're standing all together. We're raising our voice. Whether it's from Ferguson, it's the same. Whether it's in Baltimore, it's the same.
That's right.
Whether it's in LA, it's the same. Whether it's in Gaza, it's the same. It's the same struggle. And we're standing together, and we're raising our voices of resistance together, and we're going to lift our voices together and raise our voices together. We're going to lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven rings with the harmony of liberty and facing the rising sun, for our new day has begun. We'll march on until Palestine is free. Free, free Palestine!
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 As Abbas said earlier, the Answer Coalition is proud to be co-sponsoring this rally with AL-AWDA. We're happy to be here to make Palestine front and center as we march on the AIPAC National Convention. I'm going to bring up next the National Coordinator of the Answer Coalition, Brian Becker.
Yeah! Preach it!
Sisters and brothers, today, just like last year, and just like next year, is important because the White House must know, the Israeli government must know, the world must know that the tide is turning. The tide has turned. You know, 35 years ago, in the mid-1980s, if you had asked someone, could Nelson Mandela become the president of South Africa, this would be in 1985, no one would have said yes. Nelson Mandela was in prison, as he had been for 20 years. The people who were fighting the apartheid government were in prison. They were on the run. They were refugees. But 10 years later, Nelson Mandela did become president of South Africa, and South Africa became free, not only because the people in South Africa refused to stop fighting, and they did refuse to stop fighting, but they won their freedom because people all over the world started to stand with the struggle against apartheid in South Africa. That's what turned the tide. Palestine will be free. The people of Palestine young people and old people have kept the flame of freedom alive because of their steadfast resistance. That's been a constant. But what's new, what's really new, of course, is not the brutality of the Zionist regime. That's not new. Or the fact that the White House, whether it's a Republican or a Democrat, writes a blank check to finance the cruelty and brutality of the Zionist regime. That's not new. What's new, sisters and brothers, is that people all over the world are standing together to say no to apartheid, whether it's in Johannesburg or Tel Aviv, and saying this must end. We, the people, can be the decisive difference. AIPAC has millionaire politicians right there with them today. Yes, they have the politicians. Yes, they have the money. But what they don't have, and what they will never be able to gain back, is broad public support for this colonial racist project. Are you with me? Yeah. Are you ready? Are you ready to march on AIPAC? Yeah. Are you ready to shut it down? Yeah. Are you ready to stand there and tell them, we know you, we see you, we hold you accountable? Are you ready to do that? Yeah. Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine!
Free, free Palestine!
Yeah! Before we go on to our next speaker, I just want to acknowledge some people here that were here from the beginning with me, going out to every city. They flew in from other cities to help me advertise and to help me promote this rally. Abbas Bazzi from Dearborn, who's Lebanese, and Faiza Hamid from India, my friend. From Boston, but of Indian descent. I just want to show you that the Palestinian struggle is one of international humanitarian causes. Our next speaker, ladies and gentlemen, is the author of The General's Son. Somebody who's been fighting on the ground in Palestine, who stands with Iyad Burnat in Bal'in, who stands with Palestine in every major city in the United States. Please welcome Miko Peled. All right.
Wow, it's great to see so many people here. Thank you all for coming. Thank you for the Answer Coalition, AL-AWDA, everybody for organizing this wonderful, important event. It's great to be here again with my brother Iyad Burnat from Bal'in, and our brothers, the Neture Karta, who are standing over here, always, regardless of the weather, always out there standing with us. And everybody in between, including my daughter Tali, who's 14, who came from San Diego, and her friend Ella, who came with me today as well. The question is always asked, why are we here? At every interview, people say, well, why are you here? What is the message? What is the question? And I think when it boils right down to it, we're here for the little girl in Gaza that has a curable cancer but will die because Israel will not give it access to proper health care. Whereas a Jewish girl 5 minutes away from Gaza with the exact kind of cancer will live. We're here for the people in Gaza who have no access to clean water. 2 million people with no access to clean water or medicine or proper nutrition, only because the state of Israel has imposed a cruel siege on these 2 million people. These are 2 million people that are being punished because they are Palestinians, because they live in Gaza. So they try to blame Hamas, and they try to blame the rockets, and they try to blame everything else. But we know the truth. The reason there's a humanitarian catastrophe in Gaza, the reason this little girl is going to die, is because of Israel, and that's why we are here today. We're also here today because of thousands and thousands of Palestinian prisoners sitting in Israeli jails. They are all called terrorists, but we know very well they are not terrorists. They are freedom fighters.
That's right.
We know very well that the Palestinian resistance is not terrorism. Palestinian resistance is legitimate resistance. And all of us here today are part of that resistance. This is more than solidarity. We are part of that resistance. And we are bound, of course, duty bound, to be here and to support them. And we're here for the BDS activists who are now being harassed in Palestine, whether it's Omar Barghouti who's being harassed, whether it's Salah al-Khawaja who's been harassed, who's been detained and tortured for 2 months now without being charged. And of course we're here with everybody else in Palestine who needs to know that the world is standing with them. And I think it's important to send a strong message to AIPAC, that we know that AIPAC supports terrorism because they support Israel. AIPAC supports genocide because they support Israel. AIPAC supports the apartheid regime because they support Israel. And AIPAC is probably the biggest supporter of terrorism in the world today. And we are here to say, shut it down. Shut it down! And if anybody has any doubts that BDS will prevail, that boycott, divestment, and sanctions against the State of Israel is the right choice, that the Palestinians in the villages, the popular resistance represented today by AL-AWDA, are going to prevail. Yes. And have no doubt that Zionism will fall. And if we do our job, all of us here combined, if we do our job, and if we are willing to take the responsibility and to take upon us the duty to make sure that Palestine is free, then Palestine can be free, and it absolutely will be free, and it will be free much sooner than most people think. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Miko. Our next speaker, ladies and gentlemen, is somebody who is my friend, who is a friend of AL-AWDA, who is a friend of all activists fighting for Palestine in the US and everywhere around the world. I don't think he needs a long introduction, but he is a person who resists in Bal'in, Palestine. Someone who fights the Israeli terrorist forces non-violently head on. They hold a weekly demonstration in Bal'in for several years now, non-stop. It's been going on for years. Please welcome all the way from the heartland, Palestine, Iyad Burnat.
Assalamu alaikum. You know, first, I want to thank all the organizers, all of you who came all the way from all the states and different countries to resist against the AIPAC. It's very important for us as a Palestinians. And I am here because you give me hope to continue my resistance there in Palestine. You give me hope when I see you resist the AIPAC here, the terrorist organization. And because this we're suffering in Palestine, because of this organization that they're sending there is money to the Israeli army to kill our children, to destroy our land, to destroy our olive trees. In Bal'in we have 12 years of resistance. 12 years, every Friday, every week, with international and Israeli activists join us in our demonstrations. And we will continue our resistance, despite all the violence that they're using against us in Bal'in. I am here with you now, and I left 3 children in my home injured by the Israeli bullets. 3 of my children been injured. They are under treatment now because of the occupation. While I am traveling, the Israeli army attacked my home and they arrested my second son, and after they shot him in his head. It's very hard to see your kids injured in front of you. It's very hard, but we will continue despite all this violence. because we have our right to return, because we have our right to live in freedom like everybody in the world. And we will continue. I will go back from here to Palestine to continue the resistance with my family, with my people, with my children. We will never give up. But also for you, for the people who live here in Europe, in the United States, in all of the world, you have to understand our message as a Palestinians. And to make it clear, we are not against the Jewish people.
Yes.
We are against the occupation. It's not a religious conflict. It's not a war. It's a massacre in Palestine. You have to educate people here, everywhere in the United States, especially in the United States, because they get a lot of support. $4 billion a year, it goes to the army to destroy our life. So you have to educate people. That's the message of the Palestinians is clear. That we have our resistance, we have our right to resist the occupation, to have our freedom. Thank you, and we will continue. When you give us hope, you have many Palestinians see you now in Palestine, that you give them hope to continue to stand fast and the resistance. Thank you.
Free, free Palestine!
Free, free Palestine!
I'm going to bring up now a special guest, people who have come all the way from South Korea on a peace delegation. They're here opposing the U.S. occupation of their homeland, but they're also here to stand in solidarity with Palestine and to bring the message that from Korea to Palestine, occupation is a crime.
Yes.
So I'm going to bring up now a leader of the People's Democracy Party in South Korea, Han Myung-hee.
Yes.
Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine!
이스라엘에 대한 미국의 원조를 중단할 것과 당장 점령을 중단할 것을 요구하는 당신들의 집회를 지지합니다.
We are honored to be here and we support the struggle to end U.S. aid to Israel and end occupation now.
더불어 이 백악관 앞에서 남코리아의 정치, 경제, 문화, 군사에 대한 미국의 일체 개입을 중단할 것을 요구합니다.
And we urge United States to stop intervening politics, economics, cultures in South Korea.
남코리아와 팔레스타인의 상황은 크게 다르지 않습니다.
The situation in Palestine and the situation in South Korea is not different.
미국은 지금도 매년 키리조이브 독수리 훈련을 하는 이름 아래서 북침 핵전쟁 연습을 강행하고 있습니다.
Every year, United States and South Korea joint military drills happen in South Korea, although the South Korean people oppose that strongly. It is nuclear war exercise and the name is Kill Resolve and Fall Eagle.
최근에는 사드 배치를 강행하고 있습니다.
Recently, the United States enforced to deploy the THAAD, which is missile defense system in South Korea.
전쟁 연습과 사드 배치는 한반도와 동북아시아의 전쟁을 고조시킬 뿐입니다.
War exercise and THAAD deployment increasing the tensions in Korean Peninsula. It is not only for the Korean, it is but also the tensions is increasing in all over the world.
전 세계에서 벌이고 있는 전쟁에 들어가는 막대한 자금을 전쟁이 아니라 미국 민중들에게 쓸 수 있도록 미국 정부에게 민중들이 요구해주기를 바랍니다.
Now the international solidarity is needed and anti-war activities in the United States are needed. We are here today to say Palestine people will win and Palestine's people will be free.
팔레스타인 민중의 진정한 해방과 평화를 위해서 미국은 이스라엘에 대한 원조를 중단하고 당장 점령을 중단하라!
For real liberation and peace in Palestine and the U.S. aid, and the U.S. aid with Israel and free Palestine. We will stand with Palestine people.
한반도의 평화와 통일을 위해서 사드 배치를 철회하라!
And for the peace and reunification in South Korea, the North South in Korea.
전쟁 연습 말고 평화협정 체결하라!
And stop war exercise and sign a peace treaty in Korea.
Free, free Palestine!
Free, free Palestine!
Free, free Palestine!
Free, free Palestine!
No South in Korea! 한 번 더 하겠습니다. No South in Korea!
No South in Korea!
Thank you.
Struggle.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We're all here today standing in solidarity with the Palestinian people. We want to thank those who have come from all over the country and all over the world to say that from Korea to Palestine to everywhere, occupation is a crime. I'm going to bring up next Eugene Puryear, who's been an organizer nationally with the Answer Coalition for the past 10 years and is also a member of the Party for Socialism and Liberation.
Well, good afternoon. It's good to see you all here today, and I appreciate everyone coming to join with us because, as Brian mentioned earlier, the tide is turning against Israeli apartheid. They may refuse to admit it, but the reality is the wall will fall, apartheid will fall, and there will be a right to return for everyone who has been forcibly displaced from their homes. Yeah, I wear many hats, and I also work with a group called the Stop Police Terror Project that's a part of the movement for Black Lives. And I raise that because you've seen so much solidarity from every piece of the world here with Palestine, and some may wonder why, and it is because they are so brutally and unjustly occupied, but also because they never in their own occupation and their own suffering forget those around the world who are brutally and unjustly occupied. And when the people on the streets of Ferguson were taking to the streets against the militarized police officers without any sort of planning or coordination, the people of Gaza and in Palestine recognized that the munitions that were being used by American police were the same munitions that were used against them in the occupied territory, and they begin via social media to give advice on how to resist tear gas, how to continue the fight, and that advice was used to keep the Ferguson Rebellion burning for 3 straight days to electrify this country, to allow a new rebellion of black people in this nation to rise. And it goes without saying the Israeli government had nothing to say. In fact, the Israeli government trains the police in the United States. In fact, the just recently passed police chief of Washington, D.C. said the greatest time she's ever had is when she went to Israel and learned from them policing tactics that they used in the occupied territories to oppress Palestinians. Palestinian political parties put out solidarity statements on Black History Month. Israeli political parties train the police that shoot down black people like dogs in the street. Right. People stand with Palestine not just because the occupation is unjust, but because the Palestinians stand with them. Israel is nothing more than the handmaiden of U.S. imperialism. It's a bully and it's a thug that is used to intimidate anyone in the Middle East that refuses to go along with the dictates of the United States. They bomb, they kill, they imprison endlessly, endlessly with intense brutality, and the people in the House behind us and the people at the end of Pennsylvania and Congress act just like their bodyguards when they commit human rights abuses against Palestinians every single day of the week. But let me just close with this, because apartheid South Africa was another bully of U.S. imperialism that intimidated and tried to destroy every African government that wanted to be free and to help the South Africans be free. And in the 80s, they became more brutal. And everyone said, oh, they're stronger. But the turn to brutality was a sign that they were weaker than they'd ever been before. The mind games that they played on people to support apartheid South Africa were being lost. Even their own white people in South Africa were turning against the government. So they turned to intensifying brutality because they are weak. So as we see the Netanyahu government move further and further into genocidal territory, and by the way, this is the guy who said he was disappointed Israel didn't take advantage of the Tiananmen Square in 1989 to completely cleanse Palestine when no one was paying attention. That's who he is. But as much as he wants to continue his terroristic activities, the more it seems that they're stronger and stronger, the voices of intolerance. That's a sign that they're growing weaker and weaker and weaker as the people of Palestine, joined by the people of the world, rise up against Israeli apartheid and say no more, no more, no more.
Yeah!
Free Palestine! End apartheid now!
All right, ladies and gentlemen, our next speaker is from the Naturi Karta, who has always been standing with us for over 17 years with AL-AWDA anyway. They have been with us every step of the way. They are proof that Judaism is not Zionism. They are proof that there are Jews out there who are against the terrorism of the Israeli occupation forces. Please welcome David Feldman.
Thank you, Abbas. Thank you, Brian. Thank you, the AL-AWDA. Thank you, the Answer Coalition, for the great work, for the justice we all together promote and demand. The first interview I had here today, guess what the first question was? Isn't your appearance here today anti-Semitic? We need to understand where anti-Semitism comes in to the Palestinian-Israeli conflict. There's two parts of this anti-Semitism. First is being used to silence everyone who would like to speak up for what they believe is right and for what is just.
Right.
The other purpose of anti-Semitism is when it ends up to get to the point of either true anti-Semitism or at least difficulties for the Jewish people, who benefits? The state of Israel benefits. Then Netanyahu goes to Paris and tells the Jews to leave because the only safe place is going to be where? In that dangerous place of Israel. Then one day Netanyahu is going to come to DC or to New York and tell to the people, Jewish people, you need to immigrate to Israel. If there is not problems elsewhere, come to Israel, we'll create problems there. The Jewish people find the most terrible place for the Jewish people in Israel. It's the most dangerous place for Jewish people today. We need to know and we need to remember and explain to others and educate. When we listen to that ridiculous accusation of anti-Semitism, we need to understand first that most of it, when it comes from the Israeli state, it is false. Just a couple of days ago we got those reports of those bomb threats coming from where? Israel. Decades ago, I met personally a couple of years ago, many years ago, Naim Giladi, who wrote a book, Ben Gurion Scandals. A Jewish person from Baghdad, Iraq. He was one of those who placed, again an Israeli youngster, placing bombs in Jewish synagogues in Baghdad. Why? To have Jewish people be afraid, leave, supposedly because the Arabs did it. I spoke to a Yemenite rabbi from Jerusalem, originally from Yemen. Tells me a story from his close friend who visited Yemen. That sheikh insisted that he comes visit his home. He prepared kosher food for this American tourist in Yemen. He insisted he visits him. Then he tells him a story that his father was the mayor of the village, the city. At the time, the Zionist people at the time came, placed a bag of cash on the table for this Arab sheikh in order to expel the Jewish people from Yemen. He refused. He said, I protected the Jewish people for a long time. I would never do them harm. What happened the next morning? Guess.
Bomb.
3 Jews were shot dead on the street, supposedly done by the Arabs. When you listen to those accusations of anti-Semitism, if it comes from the Zionist state of Israel, most probably it's wrong, it's false. It's being used either to intimidate you or to benefit for their own interest. And I always say, the state of Israel is not the protection for the Jewish people. They would be happy to see Jewish blood spilled to gain support to their political movement. This exactly happened in Nazi Holocaust. There's books written on it. They had a slogan. My dear rabbi from London passed away about 4 years ago. He remembers reading that letter that was sent from Zionist organizations to Zionist people at the time of Nazi Germany. And they wrote to them, V'rak bedam tiyeh lanu haaretz. Only through blood we would gain the land. Therefore, we need to remember, we are standing here in Washington, D.C. while AIPAC is conducting their annual conference. We have to stop support to Israel for the sake of the Palestinian people who are wronged from the very beginning. For the sake of the Jewish people who unfortunately are also suffering from this bloody conflict. And for the sake of humanity, stop the occupation and free Palestine. Free, free Palestine!
Free, free Palestine!
Free, free Palestine! Our next speaker, who is a pro-Palestine activist, who has been to Bal'in in Palestine on the ground, who has been to several major cities speaking on Palestine and came all the way from Australia to be with us to support Palestine and protest AIPAC for the 2nd year in a row. Please welcome our friend Robert Martin.
Hello everybody. There's a reason I come from Australia. There's a reason I come all the way from Australia, and that's because I understand that Australia won't change its stance until America does. American people need to wake up and realise that their tax dollars are going to an apartheid state, abusing children, women, stealing land. They're using your dollars that you could be feeding the needy. You guys need health, but they're stealing it. AIPAC is a virus. It's spreading into the country, and it's having division between you people. People ask me why I support Palestine, and it's a really simple answer. It's the right thing to do. There's no argument that you can have being pro-Palestinian. I will never ever be labelled a pro-Israel. That would be offensive. I'd rather be called a terrorist supporter than a pro-Israel person. Now, the one thing that needs to change is the rhetoric in the media. I'm sick to death of hearing every time a Palestinian is used, they use the word terrorist. I'm sick to death of seeing Israel is defending itself. From what? How often do you have a thief in a house have to negotiate his garage afterwards? It doesn't happen. So America needs to wake up and shut down AIPAC. AIPAC are a terrorist organisation. Please tell people, because it has to change. Thank you very much for having me, and free Palestine! Free Palestine!
Thank you, Robert Martin. Free, free Palestine!
Free, free, free Palestine!
I'm going to bring up now an organizer who's come here on the bus from New York City, along with many other people. She has an important message because she's part of Students for Justice in Palestine at Fordham University, where the students have had to fight for Palestine, but also just for their right to be organized and to exist as an organization on campus. And so we also want to support their organizing work and SJP around the country who are doing important work to involve college students in the struggle for Palestine. So I'm going to bring up Safira from New York City.
Thank you. As she said, I'm coming from New York City, from Fordham University, where the administration has banned Students for Justice in Palestine. But we will continue to fight for our right to organize on campus. We will build a militant anti-imperialist movement on their campus whether they like it or not. I'm honored to be here with y'all, standing against AIPAC, standing against Zionist racism with everyone here in DC today. From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. From the river to the sea,
Palestine will be free.
From the river to the sea,
Palestine will be free.
Thank you.
We have a Palestinian, Layla Darwish, a Palestinian American originally from Brooklyn and is currently the president of the Palestine Freedom Project, which is based in Fresno, California. My friend, Layla Darwish.
No, I don't need it. Greetings, fellow Palestinian activists and friends of Palestine. I want to first introduce myself again. I am Layla Darwish, a Palestinian American originally from Brooklyn and currently the president of Palestine Freedom Project, which is based in the Fresno, California area. Fresno area is perhaps would be the last place one would find a Palestinian activist. A place that's quite poor and agricultural, largely conservative, and rather geographically isolated. Nevertheless, those conditions did not preclude me from promoting social justice, especially for the region I identify with and love the most, Palestine. I am unlike many in the Palestinian diaspora who has never visited the homeland. I actually lived in occupied West Bank during the Second Intifada. Moreover, I have visited the appalling conditions at Palestinian refugee camps in Kalandia, Shafat, Dheisha, Al-Amari, Al-Baqa, and neighboring Jordan. Many people forget that most Palestinians have been born after 1967. For the Palestinian people in the homeland, one topic has dominated their lives since that year: occupation. Let us not forget that along with the Israeli occupation of Palestine, the Palestinian refugee crisis is the longest ongoing and most geographically widespread in the world. There are at least 7 million Palestinian refugees worldwide, the largest number by far. The plight of the Palestinian people is not a controversial issue. Despite the continuous propaganda from Israeli establishment, we have to remind ourselves that the topic of the Jewish Holocaust is not controversial. It indeed happened and was subsequently condemned by the world. But by the same token, the Israeli occupation and the Palestinian refugee crisis is not a controversial issue either. The rights of refugees, and the Israeli occupation of Palestine must be terminated at once. Recently, I found and aided 2 Palestinian refugees where one would expect to see many Syrian refugees in Lesbos, Greece. It was a stark reminder, despite the news media's focus on our brothers and sisters from Syria, that most Palestinians are still stateless and are generational refugees, with many being from 1948. But the oppression and the neglect of Palestinian people goes further back in history. Let us not forget that this year is the 100th anniversary of the Balfour Declaration, which sowed the seeds to which become the basis of terrible wars, many lives lost, the eviction of Palestinians from their lands, and ongoing brutal occupation of Palestine instituted by the racist Zionist establishment. And many years ago, my grandfather was wealthy and well-respected landowner in Jerusalem.
The trees on his property were planted during Roman times. But today, however, my family is not allowed to live in the region. I myself am a refugee since my parents are 1967 refugees. Hence, our family is not allowed to live in Palestine anymore. With my young parents forced to leave their home in Palestine and my older brother an infant at the time. Although my parents eventually resettled in New York, their love for Palestine has never wavered, and they always wanted to travel back to the homeland whenever possible. However, even with the short visits to our country, Palestine, the Israelis have harassed us consistently, hoping to deter us from traveling to Palestine ever again. From landing at Ben Gurion and the borders between Jordan and Palestine and being detained for questioning, to the constant persecution at Israeli checkpoints and ultimately the threat of expulsion and the possibility of being banned by the Israelis, I find it absurd that I am treated in this manner by the occupiers, especially since I am an American citizen. Nevertheless, despite the efforts by the activists across the globe, the control of the media and the blatant utilization of propaganda by Israelis has continued. But one does not have to look far to see the gross use of propaganda, which are parallels with the Israeli tactics. Many of President Trump's recently politics mirror what is occurring in Palestine today. The militarization of police, the restrictions on free speech and immigration bias, ethnic profiling, and blatant racism. I want to conclude by saying occupied Palestine is the world's largest prison today, and hopefully it shall be closed soon.
Yeah! Thank you, Leila Darwish from California. Free, free Palestine!
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 Right before we go out to march, I know everybody's anxious. We're just doing one last song here by our friend Peter Cohen.
Free West Bank and Gaza. Free Jaffa and Haifa. Free Palestine. Million people in captivity, a Warsaw ghetto in the century, walling by land, air and sea. So when they drop the bombs, there's nowhere to flee. Come on and free West Bank and Gaza and Jerusalem. Free Jaffa and Haifa. Palestine, 6 million people in captivity, and a diaspora of refugees. They lost their homes, but they still got the key, and the right of return. It's not for them, it's for me. Please free West Bank and Gaza and Jerusalem. Free Jaffa and Haifa. Palestine, settlement expansion, outpost legalization, separation fence construction, bypass road segregation, administrative detention, checkpoint humiliation. Is this about security or the stealing of a nation? Price tag attack destruction, mass desecration, olive tree combustion, house search invasion, access restrictions, home demolitions, expulsions, evictions, inhumane conditions. Peaceful protests ended with a bullet to the head. You wanna know who the terrorists are? Just count the dead. 69 years in captivity. Tell me who's driving who into the sea, and all the children sacrificed for this humanity. How many more must die for your security? It's time to free West Bank and Gaza and Jerusalem. Free Jaffa and Haifa. Free Palestine. Free West Bank and Gaza and Jerusalem. Free Jaffa and Haifa. Free Palestine. Free Palestine.
Yeah! Thank you, Peter Cohen.
Palestine will be free. Palestine will be free. From the river to the sea. Palestine will be free. From the river to the sea. From the river to the sea. Palestine will be free. Palestine will never die. Free, free Palestine.
Look at her face.
To the AIPAC convention. Yeah.
Like one of those bag ladies right now a little bit.
Free, free Palestine. Take it now. Hey, hey. Ho, ho.
Dino was up in the building, everybody was like...
Who the fuck is Allah? Allah! Allah! Who the fuck is Allah? Allah! Allah! Who the fuck is Allah? Allah! Allah! Who the fuck is Allah? Allah! God bless the IDF! God bless the IDF! God bless the IDF! God bless the IDF! Stop it! Stop it! Go back to Jordan! Go back to Jordan! Go back to Amman! You belong in Amman! Go back to Jordan! South Lebanon 2006! South Lebanon 2006! South Lebanon 2006! Walk back with your tails on your legs! 2006!
He understands this is to connect with the American people and allow them to see that America supports Palestine. I have 2 Palestinian flags out here on these big poles. So in addition to this is what America. So it's a package deal. So it's how I work it. Politics.
And then when they got here.
When do we want it? Now! When do we want justice? When do we want it? Now! When do we want justice? When do we want it? Now! When do we want justice? When do we want it? Now! When do we want is a crime from standing rock in Palestine. Poison water is a crime. From standing rock in Palestine. Poison water is a crime. From standing rock in Palestine. Poison water is a crime. From standing rock in Palestine. Poison water is a crime. From standing
one.